Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a new episode, a very special one at that, of the Metal Meltdown. I recently had the pleasure of speaking to Michael Weikath, founding member and longtime guitarist for German power metal legends Helloween. Only one problem, everything that could have technically gone wrong went wrong. Now, just so we're clear, the interview was still great. It was still an absolute pleasure to speak with Michael, and we got some juicy details on their brand new upcoming self-titled album. But behind the scenes, we had some difficulties. There were some issues, namely with Skype, weirdly enough. We just couldn't really find each other. So what ended up happening is he literally called me over the phone, and I literally held my phone up to a microphone. I bring this up because there might be some issues with the audio. I personally didn't spot too many, but then again, I'm a fucking dumbass, so there's very likely stuff that I didn't catch and still ended up in the video. That's all, ladies and gentlemen, just a friendly heads up in case you thought there was anything about this video that sounded a little funky. Now, without further ado, let's hear from the man himself, Michael Weikath.
All right, so we proceed here.
It's all good. Right. I'm pretty good at improvising, so no harm done, I promise.
I'm getting worse at it the older I get.
I'm a young guy and I'm not good at it, so now I'm concerned.
I'm an old guy and I fucking hate mankind.
Oh,
so
well,
that's among us, little inside joke, okay?
No worries. Well, it's a pleasure to speak with you. I'll try not to waste too much of your time because I imagine you're a very busy fella. I'll get right down to business.
We don't really have a limit, but I eventually have to go and gorge something outside as long as I can before there's the lockdown time at 11. And right now it's 20 hours.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, I got a little time at least. That makes me feel a little better. The upcoming Helloween album, it's your first in 6 years, and it's your first with 3 singers and 3 guitarists. How difficult was it to organize and write the album?
Well, first of all, it's like this, if you want to tackle something like this, you need a very good management for it. And the thing was, obviously, there were the Michael Kiske and the Kai Hansen doing that unisonic thing, right? And then the bass player in that band is also the producer, and that's like Dennis Ward from Pink Cream, right? And the drummer was Kostas Ethereou, obviously also of Pink Cream fame, and so that thing, got put together in a way because they were already under the umbrella of Bottom Row Management, which is the old Pink Cream management, which happens to be our management.
Mm-hmm.
And so after that was done, it was it was possible to be done, and it took quite an effort. But that way, you already had the two projects united under the same management, which has been the hindrance ever since before, when we were asked, if we could imagine any kind of reunion of whatever taste, we would always have to say this could be difficult. I mean, given the fact that you have different managements, different schedules and whatever. But this way it came along.
At what point was it decided that Kai and Michael would be on this album? Was that always the plan for Helloween?
We had the Pumpkins United thing, which was kind of like a Helloween tour with the 7 members. And then we had the Pumpkins United recording of the track Pumpkins United, which went quite well and was cheered by all the fans worldwide. And then quickly after, well, you had reviews from record company, organizers, fans, management, and everybody said, hey, guys, if things are running so well, you got to do an album, right?
Mm-hmm.
And previously, I've been talking when people touched that subject, I would say, yeah, well, maybe we can do an EP or something. I could imagine, but that was only because I supposed that we'd be going on with the touring and whatever, and it would have to be placed in between somewhere, checked in somewhere, kind of like, what? Okay, so we record something, but then we go on with other things.
Mm-hmm.
But then they made quite an effort to free lots of time for preparations, for exchanging demos, talking, whatever, and then it was a full-fledged project, kind of like, this is the next Helloween album. And put that way, that was possible, which nobody would have assumed beforehand under the given circumstances, and you can never tell the future. But then it went that way, and this also speaks for our management yet again, because they made place, for what was necessary, because obviously they all have a lot of experience in how these things go. I mean, in organizing a tour or creating space for the production of a full-fledged album like this, with 7 characters and the Dennis Ward and the Charlie Bauerfeind in the picture. And that takes so much organizing, but they did it.
Yeah, it's an amazing accomplishment. I can't think of a lot of other bands that have been able to pull off something with so many different moving pieces.
Except I always had to think of Foreigner, when they released their first album in 77 or what it was, it showed like 6 band members on the cover. And then I don't know if subsequently in between they maybe had a 7th member or something. And you could see where that went, it didn't work out too well because like basically then Foreigner was there to be a duo of sorts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always had to think of them. I was going like, who had 7 members, I don't know, Earth, Wind, and Fire or something? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the only other band. Maybe the Jackson 5, I don't know. Where you have everyone singing and everyone playing guitar or something like that.
Yeah, and everything that went with it. And the only other thing I could relate to was like maybe Leatherwood.
Mm-hmm. Great band as well there.
But they were 5, and they had like 3 guitarists, right?
Mm-hmm. Is the plan to continue touring with all 3 singers when the time comes?
Yeah, I think. I mean, we skipped that moniker of Pumpkins United. I mean, at some point we said, do we have to keep calling this Pumpkin United at all? Can we drop that? Can we just say Helloween the way it is? Because we found that identity during the touring, and it was extremely successful. And, we also all feel good being in that thing. We don't know what it is. I mean, it's magic, it's divine in ways, because you're part of something obviously very, very important that touches the hearts of the people and the people who attend, who come, the fans. And, we had crying people for like the first 3 rows or what that was. And then that would like affect yourself, right? And then that's where the spark flies over, and then it's like, you don't know where you are, you don't know what's happening, but it's good, and you like it, and you enjoy it. And this is something you can't, free yourself from right then when it happens. It's not possible. And then you go, okay, this is 7 guys, 7 strong characters, alpha people on one stage, and you're having a show, and obviously something extra special is happening here, something that you cannot even avert, even if you wanted it. I mean, you'd have to lie down on stage and collapse and say, like, I don't want this. But no one would do this, And so, I mean, it's been taking on its own dynamics, and if you're in the middle of it and you want to ignore this, you're a freaking idiot.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I haven't seen the Pumpkins United show, unfortunately, but I remember when the tour came through Toronto a few years ago, and I knew a couple people that went to the show, and they they said it was just a really powerful emotional experience.
Yeah. Did we do that with the 7 guys in Toronto?
I could have sworn you did. I
Yeah,
I, I might be
I'm not
I didn't go
sure.
to
I
the
mean,
show because something else came up. It was I just couldn't go, not for lack of trying. But I remember some people, I believe they came to the show and they were like, "Wow, this was a once in a lifetime thing."
yeah. But far as I remember, we were there for the God Given Right tour in Toronto, and I had like a steak around the corner at the hotel. And I guess we haven't been there with the Pumpkins United thing.
I could be remembering incorrectly. In that
No, but
case,
I mean, what people told you, it was like impressive and super great and whatever, and that's what we were. But I think it wasn't a 7-piece.
you're even more impressive by yourself then.
Oh, we were not so bad.
I guess that kind of brings me to my next question. Are there plans to bring the full lineup to North America? I know you have a European tour next year with Hammerfall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that's missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though we were there. I mean, I'm just not sure about Toronto. Maybe you are totally right, and I'm mistaken. But it's just, then you make your way through all these things, and then you don't know where you are after some time. Sorry.
No, that's all good. No harm done.
That's for sure. I mean, we wanna keep going the way we are now. Like given the circumstances, if things are opening up as it's happening in a few U.S. states already, then I see no hindrance there, But who knows? I mean, but surely, I mean, the plan was, to conduct things as a 7-piece in the future, as far as we can go.
I mean, I can only speak for what's happening in Canada because we've got our own rules and such. But there are some bands that have still tried to tour. I think Megadeth even re-announced, I should say, a tour today, and they will apparently come to Toronto. So who knows? Maybe if that's a hit, maybe it paves the way for Helloween to come back soon.
Yeah, or anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's hope so.
I've heard some of the album already through promo singles and through digital copy as well, which I got from Looters. Thank you if you're listening, Looters. What's your favorite song on the album?
I can say that that's not the way I work. It's a collection of very strong pieces, and well, the album wouldn't be what it is without one or the other track that's on there actually, and. It's like I've always had that difficulty with like putting up favorites in albums we've done in the past. I think like each and every bit we did, was extremely important, even if it was like maybe a sucker or a bad number or something that people didn't like. I think even that was important because it took place. And I look upon things as some kind of image album. Like a family album, what you have, when Uncle Frank was so drunk and fell to the floor, and that wasn't so funny, but at least it happened, and that's a memory of the time you spent with your family, right? And so that's just that. That's the way I see things. But for me, that album is just taken on. From where we left, back then at the Keeper albums. And that's the way it should have been, the way it should have been continued. And it took that time to come up with something like this. And I think it's utterly homogenic and like a fat piece of work. And amazing. I mean, I love that stuff. Very good.
Wow, that's a really amazing answer. Those are actually albums. That was probably my introduction to Helloween, the Keeper of the 7 Keys albums, the two of them together. And many years later, people still say that those are some of the best heavy metal and power metal of all time. How would you respond to that?
Well, hopefully, yes. I mean, we spent a great deal of time, and I mean, we had a hard time doing whatever we wished because it seemed that there was something going against us recording these records in the past. There was always something going on, strange things happening, as if something didn't want us to conclude the deed, to do something positive, magic, as the Keeper records were. And but eventually, what happened, and we're very proud. I mean, we've been part of all that, and it's part of a legend, and that's where the divine factor is coming in. We're doing these things, and we don't know how it happens, but we're inside that thing, kind of like a dream. You wake up, and usually then the dream would stop. But I mean, it's like I wake up and we're in that crazy dream of having that 7-piece Helloween band suddenly, and there's not so much you can do about it. So I mean, there's a divine aspect to the thing, because it would be pretty hard to break this up by logic or reasons you want to come up with, kind of like this is too much and I can't handle it and I want to stay home or something. See, the only way you can break this up.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a reason at this point. I mean, everything I've heard from the new album, it's some of my favorite stuff from Helloween in years, which isn't to say anything bad about the other albums. I've really enjoyed everything Helloween puts out. But there is something really special about this new stuff that I don't know if I've really heard coming from you guys for a really long time.
Well, certainly, that's like the culmination of something that works out. And we don't know, what's happening there. It's just happening. I mean, you do a lot of work. We had like an extremely long pre-production phase of almost 2 months in Hamburg. At that studio, the very studio where lots of stuff was recorded. I mean, the Chameleon, the Master of the Rings, the Time of the Oath, the Better Than Raw, and things. And, well, you don't know how it happened, but then time goes on and you're at home and suddenly you have that Helloween album there. It's kind of strange. It's like inconceivable sometimes.
It's a good strange, I think.
Yeah, but in a good way.
Helloween has been around for nearly 4 decades now with 16 studio albums. Which album are you most proud of?
I can't say that either. What would we be without the mini album, the very one in the beginning, or the Walls of Jericho right after? If anything would have been left out, that would like hurt the area of variety, that we can base on whatever we want to do, wherever we want to go. And what's possible on this very album right now is also just like in the direct connection to what has been, right? There's no fake album in that way. I mean, I was very proud of the God-Given Right, but also the Straight Out of Hell was all very good efforts, whatever there was. And then you're going through the times like the 90s or whatever, you have to think of all the hardships there were because there was grunge and stuff. But I mean, luckily we had an identity and we were still such a, strong unit that we could afford more or less doing whatever we wished on our freaking albums while the rest of the world was going for grunge, And not everyone else could possibly do that. I mean, there's been these examples of, for instance, Stryper, who released an album with like low-tuned guitars, and that was like an experiment I didn't know how to react on. I was like, what's this? Right?
Yeah. No, I think
we were always on the lucky side, so to say,
Yeah, I think of a lot of the bands, of all of the bands that continued through the 90s through grunge rock and alternative, I think you guys probably had one of the stronger and more creative outputs. I mean, you guys were just consistently doing whatever you wanted and doing it well.
Whenever you even wanted to cater to that whole situation, if we were doing something like the Dark Ride, which I didn't really cherish much that time, but still, we did a good job at what we did, and we somehow thrived and prevailed through that weird time. obviously, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Mm-hmm. I've got one more question for you, and then I'll let you go, good sir. Thank you again for all of your time.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the state of modern heavy metal and power metal?
I'm not so actual, I must admit. It's just, my knowledge stops at like the outputs of, for instance, soil works, and given the circumstances recently, like we were quite busy doing this, doing that, I'm not very actual on what would be the modern actual heavy metal scene. I have no clue. I'm a bit detached, I must say.
Fair enough. It's all good.
But basically, from what I sense, I think it's good. I mean, there's more and more people going to the metal festivals. There's more and more festivals that you can't even count anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the monikers of whatever festivals have been done most recently before the lockdown was getting more and more. And the thing is, it's not that this is being mentioned in the mainstream media as such, right? It's not really so public or whatever, but it's growing. It's been more and more, and I don't actually know where all the people want to cram themselves together in the field to watch like a few heavy metal concerts, and how they can enjoy that. That's like a strange thing to me, but they do, right? Mm-hmm. And it's getting more and more. From what I see, there's also like high quality output of everyone involved, whichever band it is. It seems to be getting better and better, and more intellectual, progressive, whatever. And one can't even count all the metal projects and collaborations of artists that usually are in different acts. And from what I see, I think it's building up still, even though it's been said, metal is dead and stuff. How many times was that said?
Too many times.
I don't see an indication of that, not at all.
No, I don't either. I mean, it's maybe hurting a little bit right now because of COVID, but it's not dead. There are so many amazing bands putting out records every other week. Still bands that are still trying to go on tour and still trying to do cool things, and as long as that's happening, that's really all that matters.
Even if there isn't anything with live activities, I mean, taking the worst case scenario, I could imagine there's got to be acts coming up with amazing rock albums, whatever that would be, even under the most difficult circumstances. I mean, it's mm-hmm. just like some greenery you can't root out. Something that's always spreading underneath in the ground and eventually comes out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Mike. I'm sorry, you were saying?
I said I would reckon that is so. No?
Absolutely, yes. Well, thank you for your time, Michael. Unfortunately, I booked another interview for immediately after this because I'm not a very smart person, so I'm going to have to let you go.
Don't worry. Don't worry, you will grow. You will get better.
Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to hearing the full album.
All right. Okay. Then thank you.
You're very
welcome. Your time.
You're very welcome. You have yourself a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Michael Weikath from Helloween. Slightly unconventional. I'll have to check if the audio's okay, but an entertaining and interesting interview nonetheless. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.